Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Ha-Rakakwadash Mama. Double honors to the apostles, a great millstone, and the elders. Double honors to my elders as well, Aharawan, Bayasha'Allah, the lions they encamp. And salutations to the fellow Akim, Atwafim, and children that believe in truth and sincerity. It's your brother, I thank y'all back to you another lesson, and your Haratazah is edifying. All right, what I want to go into is chastisements. All right, as that's ultimately how the Lord deal with his people. More importantly, the elect, all right, the hopeful elect, that is, those who is enduring those chastisements, aware of those chastisements, because that's how he deal with us as far as yielding the best out of his people, all right? What's profitable out of his people, okay? As you can see, deliverance from captivity promised, all right? Because it is promised for the nation of Israel, for the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And through these chastisements is how we wipe our slate clean, all right? Because what Yahweh Shai went through the same chastisements as a perfect man. So as the scriptures say, through his stripes we are healed, right? So I want to start off in the book of Jeremiah chapter 30 and verse 10, all right? As it says, therefore fear thou not, O my servant Jacob, saith the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, neither be dismayed, O Israel, for lo, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of their captivity. And Jacob shall return, and shall be in rest, and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid. For I am with thee, saith the Lord, to save thee, though I make a full end of all nations, whether I have scattered thee. And that's what he's doing, man. He set up the whole world against his people, ultimately for we to have the back end of ultimately the promise, the everlasting. That's why we have to go through this temporal right now, all right, of the flesh, these carnal things, this carnal realm that has been set up by Most High ultimately, all right, but it's been driven by the wicked of man, ultimately to see the negative and what not to be and what not to instill when we set up the positive, all right, and what we're not going to go for when the positive is set up pertaining to the heathen, right? So he goes save us from afar, and thy seed from the land of that captivity, and Jacob shall return and shall be at rest, and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid. For I am with thee, saith the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, to save thee, though I make a full end of all nations, whether I have scattered thee, because we've been scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, all right, for disobeying the Lord's law, statutes, and commandments, because we have a standard to uphold, because we were given the law, statutes, and commandments after he freed us from the first Egypt, all right, by way of Moses, all right. So what we were given the covenant, all right, the first covenant that's going to ultimately lead into the second covenant of everlasting life, the law in our inward parts being perfect. But right now we're going through the purging, the chastisements, the affliction to be made perfect, right? Understanding the Lord's will, understanding why it's imperative to not disobey, all right? Because again, he deal with us as a father, the heavenly father, all right? As such, so what a father does, he chastens and he disciplines who he loves. So it's back in verse 11 from the top. For I am with thee, saith the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, to save thee, though I make a full end of all nations, whether I have scattered thee, yet will I not make a full end of thee. Right? He's not going to make a full end of us. Even 2/3 of our people, they're going to come back into the kingdom through the loins of the elect, and they're going to be perfect. They're going to be made pure. They're going to be made white, perfect, all right, and never go off. But I will correct thee in measure, and will not leave thee altogether unpunished, right? You know, and that's true love, not having us go unpunished as he does the heathen, right? That's why he has them in derision, letting them do as thou wilt, right? Because he doesn't chasten them as he does sons, they're bastards, they're heathens, again, a fatherless nation. For thus saith the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, thy bruise is incurable, and thy wound is grievous. There is none to plead thy cause, that thou mayest be bound up. Thou hast no healing medicines. All thy lovers have forgotten thee. They seek thee not, for I have wounded thee with the wound of an enemy, with the chastisement of a cruel one, for the multitude of thine iniquity, because thy sins were increased, man. So that's the reason why we go through these chastisements. But ultimately, there is someone to plead our cause, all right? Because he made his only begotten son, Yahweh Shai, lower than the angels, man, to go through those straits for us to have a way out, all right? We go into that word chastisements in verse 14. H4148.
Strong's H4148.
Musar. Discipline, chastening, correction. All right, so discipline, instruction, correction, check, bond, doctrine, rebuker. All right, again, correction. So what? With the chastisement of the cruel one in verse 14, for the multitude of thy iniquity, because thy sins were increased. All right, so again, through the Lord's stripes, we are healed. All right, through Yahweh Shai stripes, we are healed. All right, long as we make him our refuge and our covering. All right, and do the things pleasing to the best of our ability. Verse 15, why criest thou for thine affliction? Thy sorrow is incurable for the multitude of thine iniquity. Because thy sins were increased, I have done these things unto thee. So we need to go through these straits and afflictions and chastisements, ultimately to blot out our iniquity through the spirit of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Therefore, all they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thine adversaries, every one of them shall go into captivity. And they that spoil thee shall be spoiled, and all that prey upon thee will I give for a prey. For I will restore health unto thee, and I will heal thee of thy wounds, saith the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, because they call thee an outcast, saying, this is Zion, whom no man seeketh after. Right, like pertaining to Psalms chapter 2. All right. You know, they think the Lord is in the heavens laughing, all right, at us being in derision, all right, for them taking advantage of us, all right, as far as these heathen nations, in particular, the ambassador of the heathen being Esau, Edom. But that's not so, all right. He's making us perfect, all right, a nation as a whole, and it's ultimately starting with the elect. From there, I want to go to the book of Malachi, chapter 1 and verse 1. The burden of the word of the Lord to Israel by Malachi. I have loved you, saith the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Yet ye say, where hast thou loved us? Right, that's what our people say. The Lord don't love us, because they look at the carnal things and the fleshly things and think that matter, and see that, you know, we're at the end of the stick when it comes to this realm, all right, this kingdom, this setup, when this is not our rest, all right, this is not the end all be all. Again, this is hell, all right, the place of judgment under the sun, the lowest condition, with the basis of men ruling, pertaining to Job chapter 9 and verse 24, all right, Job chapter 30 and verse 9, they're the basis of men, all right, but according to Daniel 4:17, it says what? The Lord set up the basis of men to rule. This is Daniel chapter 4 and verse 17. This matter is by the decree of the watchers and demand by the word of the Holy One, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and give it to whomsoever he will, and set up over it the basis of men. Right, but he's only loose for a little season, but pertaining to 2 Thessalonians. All right, now he who let until he be taken out of the way. All right, because again, he's just the Lord's sword, his whipping stick, to whip the nation of Israel back into shape, so to speak, right? So just going back into Malachi on how people look at this chastisement, look at the state that we're in this captivity, and think it it's not profitable when it is. All right. It's a blessing to be in the Lord's chastisements, all right, correction, because he loved us ultimately. So this is back in Malachi chapter 1 and verse 2. I have loved you, saith the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. Yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother? Right. The twins starting in Genesis 25, right? That were born in the womb, that's going to be separated. And that's ultimately going by a social construct today of black and white, hiding the identity of the two antagonists and the two, all right, the antagonist and the protagonist of the scriptures, all right, what the story is ultimately all about, the yielding of the Lord's people, all right, the chastening of the Lord's people, all right, understanding them going off time and time again, but he chose this people to be peculiar to himself. So the Lord is not going to be made a liar. He's going to correct and perfect his people, whether they like it or not, whether they get with it or not, right? Whether they have to be put to death or whether they walk right into the kingdom, man, due to understanding and understanding and taking advantage of that chastisement and the grace period that we in, all right? Verse 3, and I hated Esau and laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragon of the wilderness. That's why he set up the whole world against his people. All right. So they can be ultimately spoiled at the end. That's why Esau was set up to be the whipping stick to his people. So he can be at the bottom at the end. Again, when going into Genesis 25, the eldest was supposed to serve the young. So that's why it's written in 2nd Ezra chapter 6 and verse 8 that Jacob came out holding his heel, roughly paraphrasing, because Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning of it that followed. Jacob is who matters to the Lord. Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, like quote unquote, making America great again. You know, Psalms 49 and 11 speak on how their inward thought is that their houses go continue forever. All right. They shall build, but I will throw down, and they shall call them the border of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord have indignation forever. The Lord have an indignation for these people. He don't love them. He don't deal with them as he deal with them as a son. Again, bastards, heathens going into like a fatherless nation. Verse 5, and your eyes shall see, and ye shall say, the Lord will be magnified from the border of Israel. Man, and that's the point. All right, so what we have to take these afflictions, these chastisements, and understand that it's all for the purging of the flesh and for us to be found as fine gold. This is the book of Hebrews, chapter 12 and verse 4. A father's discipline. Ye have not yet resisted unto blood, striving against sin. Right. But Yahushua did. Verse 5, and ye have forgotten the exhortation which speaketh unto you as unto children. My son, despise not thou the chastening of the Lord, nor faint when thou art rebuked of him. For whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth, and scourgeth every son who he receiveth. If ye endure chastening, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua dealeth with you as with sons. For what son is he whom the Father chasten not? Verse 8, but if ye be without chastisement, whereof all are partakers, then are ye bastards and not sons. Right, that's the point. All right, spare the rod, spoil the child. Verse 9, furthermore, we have had fathers of our flesh which corrected us, and we gave them reverence. Right, whether you had a father in the flesh or not, all right, that's the father's duty, period, all right, to instill order, structure, discipline, all right. The mother is more nurturing, all right. Furthermore, we have had fathers of our flesh which corrected us, and we gave them reverence. Shall we not much rather be in subjection unto the Father of spirits and live? For they verily for a few days chasten us after their own pleasure, but he for our profit, right? That we might be partakers of his holiness. Now, no chastening for the present seemeth to be joyous, right, but grievous. Nevertheless, afterward it yieldeth the peaceable fruit of righteousness unto them which are exercised thereby. So again, like the elders say, you want to be like water, all right? It can crash or it can just flow through the conduit, and let the Lord instruct the way, all right? Either go give you room to fly or room to land, Either way, it's a safe plane, as long as you trust in him, all right? Again, making the Lord our strong tower, pertaining to Psalm 91, our refuge. This Job chapter 5 and verse 17. This is a quick one. Behold, happy is the man whom Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua correcteth. Therefore despise not thou the chastening of the Almighty, man. So don't despise it. Don't turn away from it, all right? Because again, it's all about purging of the flesh to be pure gold after being brought through the furnace, all right? So you don't want to take the easy way out and indulge in the world, all right, and be satisfied with the temporal things of the world, of the flesh that is temporal. That's not going to yield nothing but death and destruction. Again, the scriptures speak on how it's a way that may seemeth right to a man, but the end thereof is the way of death. All right, you ultimately want to obey the Lord's chastening and go through that correction. All right, build yourself up through the spirit of truth, and then hopes on being saved, man. Hopes on having your sins blotted out. All right, the consumptuous sins blotted out as well, the sins you don't even know about. It's a law in Deuteronomy, like Deuteronomy 21, chapter 21, I believe, on how, like, if you have a disobedient son, all right, like in the ancient times, you have a disobedient son and he don't, he be brought to council or before the elders and he still disobey, he's a drunkard, that he'll be stoned to death. All right, it's the same thing in the spiritual sense. You want to adhere to the chastening of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, ultimately yield to that chastening, man. Bow down to it, because it's going to profit you in the long run at the end, for you to be able to glory with them. Sit at the table. This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 3 and verse 11. My son, despise not the chastening of the Lord, neither be weary of his correction. For whom the Lord loveth, he correcteth, even as a father the son in whom he delighteth, right? Because he delights in you ultimately. All right, he sees something in you, all right, as he ultimately going to see a son in you at the end, all right, long as you endure these afflictions, endure hardness, again, as a good soldier, 2 Timothy chapter 2 and 3, all right. It's the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 4 and verse 17. For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, right? It's for a moment. The elder speak on how this is temporal, man. These little hundreds or thousands of years compared to eternity is nothing. He brought out a mean scripture on that one too. For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, worketh for us a far more exceeding and external weight of glory, while we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal, right? So the Lord see the eternity within our people, and it's time for that to be worked on and be brought forth. All right. Again, purging our people and making them as fine gold, man. Again, starting with the elect, the 144,000 men and the 1/3 men, women, and children that believe in these times. All right.